What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we return with John Gallagher of the almighty Raven. It is great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for coming back on the show, man.
Good to be here, Alex. Always. Thank you.
Anytime, man, anytime. All Hell's Breaking Loose is an absolutely kick-ass album, and I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it. Did you just consider this like a continuation or a sequel or sort of like picking up where you left off after Metal City in a way? Or is this meant to sort of be like a new beginning or new uncharted territory for Raven?
It's part of the ongoing climb. Definitely, we were very happy with Metal City. It was a great first studio album with Mike, and we were like, can't wait to do the next one because we had one or two ideas floating. Even then, it was like, can't wait for this, and we kicked the bar up very high and jumped over it. I think we did a better album. And it's, there's some continuation factor in that. Yes, it's kick ass all the way through. It's got some crazy cover art, those type of things. But, Mike was in at the ground floor on this one, where we'd written all the songs before he joined with Metal City. This one, he contributed, as far as riffs and ideas and song titles and, the whole thing. We all throw in stuff and, back in the so-called glory days, that's the way it was. It was just like, well, who come up with this riff? Was it me? Was it Mark? Or was it Rob? And it didn't matter. Yeah. That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Everyone was thinking in the same direction. So, we've got that going on, which is awesome.
Whenever you start off with the making of an album, because, from rock until you drop to now, there's always been a constant evolution, but you've always been able to keep the pedal to the metal with every album. Does it ever start off with a preconceived vision in a way, or do you just kind of go right into things?
I just write songs. I mean, on a general thing, the mandate for this was 10 songs, 35, 40 minutes, all killer, no filler, kick ass, kick ass, kick ass, kick ass. No ballads, no 35-minute sound explorations, and no. Just good songs that kick ass. And we wrote a lot of them. We had, not completely fully formed, but maybe 30 songs, and distilled that down to probably 20 and ended up recording 18, two of which are covers for other projects that I can't talk about right now. They're fun, they're very silly, they're fun, they're different. But, we had maybe 16 songs that were album contenders, and from that we knew we wanted 10. So it's like, what's the best starter? What would we want to finish on? Do you want to finish on a somber, miserable, here's the dark epic? No, have it. Oh, maybe one of the better songs we've got, and that's what we did. We ended up putting Go for the Gold at the end. It's a great way to round things off, and it makes you want to go, wow, I want to hear that all again.
Yeah. Of course.
And that's again in our blood from, Van Halen 1, Montreux's first album. That's what you aspire for. You want to, if you can get anywhere in that kind of ballpark, you're doing it right.
Well, I think the beauty of a Raven album is that it doesn't need to be analyzed too hard. It's a fucking heavy metal album. And what I think is great, I think one thing that you guys have accomplished, and I've always said that this is an accomplishment, where I can listen to a metal album and I can listen to it when I'm pissed off, I need the motivation, I need to get me amped up, but I could also use the same music as background music if I just want to chill and, listen to a metal album while reading a book or, just, taking a day off or whatever. I feel like you have the best of both worlds for that in that regard. It's not just music for the gym. It's not just music for the couch. I think it's metal music that's appropriate anywhere.
No, there is, believe it or not, there is a cerebral component in there, and a lot of that's in the performance and the construction, because it's like, we write songs that they're songs. They've got hooks, they've got catchy parts. They're commercial in sense, very much so in some parts. So that it's got legs, it's got depth. It's not just like the killer riff followed by the killer riff followed by the killer riff followed by the killer riff. It's just like, where's the song? So we have like a roadmap, as it were, and then you hit people with the left hook and the left turn and the fun stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Because if it was all the fun stuff, then it's it's jazz rock.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. Good riffs don't make a good song. Good solos don't make a good song. Like you could have
Yes.
Randy Rhoads in your band, but if the song wasn't catchy and if the song didn't have a hook and we didn't have
Yeah,
those.
I got two words on that. It's called extreme rise.
Yep. Exactly. So like,
Right?
yep. I think in the end,
Hey, great band and all the rest of it, but nah, a solo does not make a song.
thank you
Not at all.
for saying
Yeah.
that. Yeah, because uh and like I've always, part of me wondered, and this isn't to crap on artists who do this because I think it's a type of style or taste in its own right. But part of me wonders when you have a song that has like a 3.5 minute long solo in that, was that really how it was supposed to be, or was it just filler in the end? You know?
It depends. Sometimes you know, it's not something that we've really done. I don't think you could. We've really done that. It might happen live with like something like Chainsaw at the end. We're going absolutely apeshit, jumping around, and Mark will just stretch and just go and go and go, and it's up to him when he wants to finish, type of thing, you know. But sometimes you can have a solo that will build if you're making a statement. If it's just an excuse to just go widdly, 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 waffle, 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 you're not going anywhere. You know, I mean, hear people talk about like the old classics like Made in Japan. It's like, they do Child in Time and that solo goes on forever. I said, yeah, but listen to it. Listen to what he's doing. He's starting somewhere. He builds and he builds and he builds and he builds. And the whole, there's a crescendo coming and then boom, it stops dead.
Yeah.
So, there's musical validity in that, but you wouldn't necessarily want to hear it on every song.
No.
Okay, and now the seventh keyboard player is going to play for 7 minutes. Yeah,
When we listen to,
we all get a turn.
hey, I mean that's impressive in its own right. But Slipknot has 9 members, and you don't have them doing that. So,
no, you don't have that. But I mean, it's it's like the whole thing about keeping the album short and all that. You put some boundaries and parameters around you and try to be creative within that, and that'll spur you to do something different. If you've got a completely open canvas where it's like, jam band nights, and we're going to do this one blues that could go on for 25 minutes, there's no structure, there's nothing to push against, so it can just be waffle,
Definitely.
Yeah, you might get something genius out of it, but somehow I doubt it,
Of course. When we listen to a Raven song, though, and is it reflective of an emotion that all of you were feeling at that particular time in a way, or do you use music as more of an escapism in a way where you don't like to bring your personal life or personal experiences into it, and you just kind of want to use this as a means of distancing
It can
yourself?
be both. It can be both. I mean, I can look back at certain songs I've written and realized it was a particularly bad time or a particularly good time, and that was an escape by coming up with whatever I came up with. And usually it's the music. The music will almost always come first. I mean, I may be on my phone and go and look at something and go, oh, that's a cool phrase, or that's a cool title, and then I'll jot it down. And, later on I'll go, do I have anything cool that would fit with this? And sometimes it'll just spark into your head, or sometimes you have a chorus idea and you just go la 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 la, like, oh, okay, that kind of pattern, and what words would fit that, and if something jumps in, once you've got a title, it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? And you try to build a narrative around that, and usually at that point it's just saying it just comes out,
Yeah.
if you're lucky, because you've probably heard about this before. It's like nobody really writes anything. You're all receiving transmissions from God knows where, and if you're lucky,
That's
that's
a very
one
good
of those
point.
things you can't question, you can't force. It's just you try to go with a blank mind. You don't try to go, okay, today we're going to write 3 songs, because you'll never do nothing. But if I just pick up an instrument and just start strumming, something will come out. and often it's the first thing you play.
Yep.
You just try to have a blank head and just play a riff and go, oh. So again, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ideas on here. And eventually I go back through them and go, was there anything here? And other times it's with a, like a proper multi-track recorder, like on here with a laptop or whatever, and go, oh yeah, we got to just build on this, and try to get at least first chorus type of thing, and then stick a, horrible finger played drum pattern on it and see what you've got. And then maybe just put that on the shelf. And then, come back to it a little later and see what you've got. And sometimes with a bit of distance, you go, well, that stinks, but this part's cool. Let's take that from this, and anything works.
I wanted to discuss some anniversaries in the Raven camp because this year marks 40 years of All for One. And I just wanted to know what the mindset was behind that, being that this was the third album. Was Rock Until You Drop and Wiped Out maybe a good starting point to what you would later achieve on All for One? And was One for All that came out 17 years later almost kind of like the sequel to that in a way?
Well, obviously your first album is what you've been playing live pretty much, and so we do that, and it was a big learning process. The guys we work with, Steve Thompson and Mickey Sweeney in the studio, were very helpful, and we learned an awful lot from them as far as the process and songwriting in general. Like, we put a box set out of Rock Until You Drop, and you can hear the original demos of Don't Need Your Money and Wiped Out, and they've got all these extraneous extra parts, which Steve, you don't need that. Get to the point. And that really came home, it's just like, okay, you might have a cool riff, but you don't shoehorn it in there for the sake of shoehorning it in there. Maybe that could be its own song at another time. So we did that, and when we were playing live at that point, you saw how the audience reacted with the crazier stuff, and it's just like, ramp it up, let's do Wiped Out, and be as crazy as we possibly can. And once we'd done that, it's like, well, where do you go from there? Let's explore something different. Let's actually dial it back, because we were starting to play bigger places, and you realized that sometimes you would get lost in the shuffle with the sound. And if you played something like Rock Until You Drop, which was more mid-paced, it really resonated, So we had a bit more of that kind of stuff in there. So that's how that, and also the whole factor of like, we want to work in a real studio with a real producer, a named producer who really understands heavy metal. Because when we did Wiped Out, the other guys had quit because they weren't getting paid, and they got a guy in, it was his first ever production, and he knew like maybe this much more than we did, to the point that whenever he left, we were fiddling with the controls. Mm-hmm. The sorcerer's apprentices. 17 years later, One for All, specifically because we were working with Michael Wagner again. That's pretty much, it was just like, all for one, one for all. Let's do that. And that was, it's always been fun working with Michael, and that was a blast. So it's cool.
Yeah, I also noticed that was the first, after All for One, it was the first time that you took more than a year to release, because Rock Till You Drop was 81, Wiped Out was 82, All for One was 83, and then we didn't get Stay Hard until 85, so the 2-year gap. But maybe I'm just overthinking.
Yeah, which was of course the whole legalities and getting away from neat records and moving to the States and all that stuff. So we did have the live album at that point. I think the live album came out either, I don't know if it was late 84 or early 85, I can't remember. But that was the whole thing there, was recording the album and also touring endlessly to try and get the deal, which we got. We've tried to do an album if it wasn't a year, it'd be like every 18 months, right until Mark's accident, I think. We had some issues in the 90s where we were doing demos and my house burned down and we lost a lot of material. And that set us back a year or two, where just before we did the Glow record. And, times were tough then. You had the new metal and the grunge and all the rest of it. And it made things more difficult. And, you know, we were going through record companies like tissue paper at that point, pretty much.
I spoke with Metal Church about about material that they released in the '90s, and like they said in the wake of grunge and all that, that it was very difficult in a way. But I've always wondered why people said metal was dead in the '90s during the grunge era, because you had bands like Pantera conquering the world. You had death metal was at its absolute prime at that point. Black metal was on the rise, and grunge. Soundgarden and Alice in Chains had their heavy elements too.
It's as heavy as anything you could call heavy metal, of course. It's just a silly label. It's great music. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wondered what it was
Absolutely.
about. What was it about grunge that made it so difficult for metal at that time? I heard a quote. I believe it was one of the members of Slaughter. He said, "Grunge didn't kill metal. People in the industry did."
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, it's literally some guy at MTV got out of bed and went, "Enough. We're not doing that anymore." Literally, and they mentioned the guy's name. He basically just turned around and go, "Okay, we're changing format. We're not doing that anymore." And obviously there was the more glam, like the Warrant type of thing. Those bands that were very glammy, very poppy. You listen back to it now, and the guys are having fun and they were writing good music. So all of a sudden it turned into dour and misery, and we're all going to kill ourselves. We'd already run into a bit of this by the late 80s. It was like we weren't glam and we weren't thrash. We were between the two. We were our own thing. We've always been our own thing. And it was just like, I've seen this movie before. This is not going to be easy, and we're just going to have to keep our head down and work. And we did. We worked our way through it. And that stuff even crossed over into Europe, the whole new metal thing, and it made it tougher there because it's just like, we're going to book these bands. Your kind of bands are yesterday's news. And by the time it got to like 97, things started opening up again.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. One of the factors was the band Hammerfall, and we took them out on our tour. That was their first tour. And all the German press loved Hammerfall because they were playing the music they loved, but they weren't German. So they were allowed to like it. Because if it had been the German bands, like the Halloweens and all this, it's like, well, we can't like them because they're old-fashioned. It was utter rubbish, utter nonsense. But, the wheel turned a bit more.
And little did they know that Hammerfall had members from Dark Tranquillity and In Flames in that band.
Oh, they didn't care. Yeah. They didn't care. It's stupid. It's just stupid.
Yeah, that is pretty. But and I think Karma, not to say that it was any fault of grunge, but Karma bit that movement on the ass, because it seemed like grunge completely came and went. I was born in 1993, and so by the time I started discovering music, grunge was already on its way out, and it was like alternative rock bands like Smashing Pumpkins kind of ruling the world at that point, So
yeah, it's true. A lot of those. It's just weird. I mean, I'll listen to it. I mean, I'll like a lot of Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, I can see why everyone goes fucking crazy when they hear Billy talk. But Billy's a prankster, and he knows how to push people's buttons. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But at the end of the day, it's all labels, and there's two kinds of music. There's the music you like, and there's the music you don't. And I try not to dwell on the music I don't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and it's so great to hear you say that, and thank you for saying that. Is there just anything else before we go? Anything else with Raven that you'd like to promote with the release of All Hell's Breaking Loose? This is a fantastic album. I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it. Just what else?
The release comes out June 30th. We will have another video to go with that. And we just put out a video for Surf the Tsunami, which is hilarious, which is a lot of fun. We will be touring the States in October. We'll come round and do that. And we've already had people saying, "Are you doing All for One?" Because we just did the All for One album in its entirety in the UK and in Europe. And it's just like, well, we're going to have the new album out. And you guys got wiped out last year. So we'll try to find a happy balance there. But we're looking forward to just getting out there and playing a lot of gigs.
I'd imagine with every with every album you put out, it gets harder and harder and harder to put a set list together.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's also fun because we're at the point now we go, okay, let's do something like we're talking. Let's do something off Life's a Bitch. Let's pick something off that for fun. And we did it like 2 years ago. It was like extract the action off Stay Hard. Let's play that for fun. And people like, you're playing that? Like, yeah, why not? It's great to throw a curveball in, you know.
Yeah, having too many albums is a great problem to have. But
yeah, it is. It always is. Yeah.
But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Raven. All Hell's Breaking Loose. Be sure to pick that up this June. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Alex. Take care, man. We'll see you.